Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
My name is Kristen Sharp, and I am the events director for the Oro Valley Chamber of Commerce. Thank you all for joining us today on our next edition of Let's Connect. And today we're connecting with Danette Bewley, who is the CEO of Tucson Airport Authority.
Thank you all for being here. Dave Perry with the Chamber, and I appreciate your time as well as that of Danette Bewley and Jesse Butler. I see Dave Hatfield's on here from the airport. Want to welcome, I see Stephanie Bowe from Bear. Stephanie, nice to have you with us today. Members of council, I see Mo Green there. Thank you, Mo, for being here. Danette has some bio in her PowerPoint, and I'll let her use that stuff. I would proudly note that I believe Danette is a resident of Oro Valley, and you know, we've got one more talented person leading an institution. I'm not one of those talented people leading an institution, by the way, but Danette certainly is, and she's done a terrific job running the airport through this crazy and tumultuous time. So let's give a little verbal or non-verbal applause and welcome Danette Bewley from Tucson Airport Authority. The floor is yours.
Oh, thank you, Dave. Thank you, everybody, for inviting me to share some information about the Tucson Airport Authority and really what's been going on at the airport this last year. So hopefully everyone can see the presentation. And Dave, can you see everything?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. That's always the first test. So as Dave mentioned, aviation is in the blood. Just to give you a little background, I'm from San Diego, California, and born and raised there, lived the first 40 years of my life there, and then started moving around the country. But my dad was a Navy pilot. That's him in the center. He was coming back from, believe it or not, they sent him to space in a jet. So that's why he's wearing a G suit and a space suit in that picture. Fighter pilot, commander, squadron commander at Miramar, all famous, you know, all the squadrons. The most famous squadron everyone knows about is Top Gun, and yes, he was a part of that. But he went on to become an airline pilot. You see off to the left is the tail of a U.S. Airways aircraft. He flew for PSA, and they were bought by, or they sold themselves to U.S. Air, and then now he's part of the American retiree system. It's almost like watching the Final Four in basketball to see how the airlines buy each other up. My mom and dad have been married for 58 years, and my mom was a flight attendant for Eastern Airlines. So that's why you see Eastern in the picture as well. So you can imagine what my household was like. I don't think I knew anything other than aviation growing up, which has really been wonderful. I don't feel like I missed out on anything. Young ladies around the country were playing with Barbie, and I was playing with jets. So that's me there. I was flying in a Navy aircraft. I am a private pilot. I'm also a graduate of National University, which is a San Diego college. At the time, they had a school in aerospace studies. So that's where I got all my education. And I got a bachelor's in business administration, aviation management, a master's in arts, and then I went on to get a master's in public administration, just to get myself a little more well-rounded in all things aviation. Next slide. I have been in airports for about 32 years, started my career in San Diego at the San Diego International Airport. Then, as I mentioned, I left San Diego at the ripe old age of 40 to go to Jacksonville, Florida, to run the Jacksonville International Airport. Then a very good colleague of mine recruited me to go work for her in Reno, Tahoe, which I did, which is great experience. And then came here to Tucson in 2012, where I've been ever since. And this is where I plan to stay, and this is where I plan to retire. So thank you, Tucson, for opening my eyes to such a wonderful community. Let me tell you a little bit about the Tucson Airport Authority. It is a nonprofit corporation founded in 1948, and it's a little unusual. Our membership consists of only community members, and right now it's up to 60 community members. We're governed by a board of directors that can be anywhere from 7 to 11 people. And another really great point that we like to share with everyone is that we don't receive any tax dollars. Every dollar that we make here on the airport through our business dealings or through rates and charges. So most of you know about Tucson International Airport, and we run 2 airports actually. Ryan Airfield is our general aviation. Right now, I'll focus on Tucson International Airport. You know, pre-pandemic, we were tracking to see as many as 4 million passengers in 2019. That would have been really a wonderful year for us, cresting 4 million. That would have really marked some serious recovery from the period of 2006 through 2008, when everyone was going through, you know, the Great Recession. We had an average daily departure rate of about 60 flights, sometimes 62, depending on the time of the year. 18 to 20 nonstop destinations, and 8 airlines. By the way, we still have all 8 airlines. Ryan, our general aviation airport, is just about 12 miles west of Tucson. Very, very popular airport with the GA, the general aviation community. We are seeing about 105,000 operations in the 2018-2019. General aviation flying has not tapered off that much, even during pandemic times. So GA seems to be relatively strong because people still enjoy flying. It's a growing concern over there. We've got 20 businesses and over 300 based aircraft. We just finished a master plan there, which really puts together the layout for the future of Ryan. One of the things that we did last year, it was really in the works before the pandemic really became a reality, is we were working on a 3-year strategic plan. It was really focusing more on business development and the future. Obviously, we had to pivot and focus on how to survive a pandemic. I'm sure you all did the same thing in your businesses. What we really wanted to do was refine our mission statement and our vision statement. And I think we can all agree that what we really wanted to do was land prosperity in Southern Arizona. I mean, we are an airport, but we also understand we're an economic engine for our community. So that's where the landing prosperity came from. We also decided that in order to get through the 2021 period, we would really need to align and engage and figure out what did we need to do and what did we want to do. And that way we could set ourselves up for some success in 2022, so we could capitalize on opportunities. Our focus in the very beginning was really looking internally, looking at our organizational alignment and internal transformation. I won't bore you with those details, but I will just say to you, I am putting together an amazing team of professionals, and it's really coming together nicely, and this community should be proud that we have the wonderful leaders that we do running your airport system. One of the other things that we're focusing on is inspiring travel. That's really important to us because that's where our bread and butter comes from. And that's probably where a lot of other people's bread and butter comes from. And we're working with our airline partners to restore service. We're working with local community partners on what are their travel needs. We have a new marketing and branding campaign, Nonstop for Tucson. And one of the other elements that's important to everyone is a touchless journey. As I mentioned a few moments ago, we know we're an economic engine. And a couple of years ago, we did a economic impact study, and our annual impact was 7.4 billion. We were really tracking to probably crest over 10 billion. I mean, our internal indicators were really strong when the pandemic hit. So, you know, we're climbing out of it, and with all of you, we know that we're going to come back. We're going to come back strong. We're a really good market. The airlines are telling us that they're bringing back service, you know, faster than they could have ever thought. One of my favorite flights will be coming back in June is the nonstop between San Diego and Tucson. That's a popular one. So California is opening up again. Air service development, as I mentioned, we have 8 airlines operating out of Tucson. Doesn't mean we don't still go after other airlines. We always do, but right now our focus is on maintaining what we have and growing from there. And if we have new carriers coming, then we will accept them all day long. We can go to the next slide. So I want to show you a little bit of looks like an EKG chart. This was our COVID-19. Obviously, you probably have similar charts in your business world where everything was going relatively well right up until March, and then we all fell off the cliff. This is what our operations looked like in March of 2020. And when we went down to our lowest of about a handful of flights and maybe under 300 people in our terminal. It was very much like watching a zombie movie. And as you can see, we've had a steady climb ever since. Right now, we're at about 40 average daily departures, and I expect to grow a few more flights over the next couple of months and into the summer. What we're finding from the pandemic is that people have a desire to travel. There's been a pent-up demand, and they really want to go to a place that is open. There's outdoor activities. They can golf, they can hike, they can bike. Tucson is that community. So we're seeing a lot of full flights. Right now, it looks like we are going to be up about 4 flights into June, and another 4 flights after that into July. So again, we're closing in on getting back to our 60 average daily departures, but we're not going to stop at 60. We want more flights. This is a map of the nonstop service that we have from Tucson International Airport. And this is a present chart, and we've got San Diego on there right now because we know it's coming back next month. One thing I want to point out is even though we only have 18 nonstop destinations listed, you can still get to over 345 destinations through a one-stop. So it doesn't limit anyone getting where they need to go. It's just a different way of getting there. And as we kind of work through this new normal with the airlines, they're re-envisioning how they route their flights. So it may not go back to the way it used to be. So we're trying to be flexible and creative and get as many flights that we can. This is our new campaign, Nonstop for Tucson. What you're going to see throughout the community is billboards, videos. We have on social media, and it'll say nonstop for Tucson, nonstop for economic development, nonstop for customer service, nonstop for safety, nonstop for just about anything is what our logo in our branding will be. So part of our efforts this year is earning passenger confidence. And like everyone else, we were looking at what do we do in the terminal to make sure that people understand that we're really taking this seriously. This is a very quick list, and it's not a non-exhaustive list because we've done so many things. We have spent millions of dollars improving our terminal experience between the distance markers and signage. We've done facility improvements like HEPA filters, UVC sterilizing lights, acrylic shields everywhere, foot operated buttons and elevators. We have our custodial team with these backpacks that spray disinfectant all over the airport so we can really get a large area cleaned rather quickly. We also have earned the Global Biorisk Advisory Council star rating. We were the fifth airport in the world to earn this. So we aren't resting on our laurels at all. We had COVID testing, and we also issued COVID shots. Our fire department is partnered with the Pima County Health Department, so we were identified as a point of distribution. So these are some of the things that we are doing to help the community and to make sure people feel safe coming to the airport. Some important projects that we have moving forward is again, looking at our community, this is new. We have new signage in the airport. This is a big video wall. It's not fully operational just yet, but we're working on the final phases of it. And this will be more welcoming messaging. We can have a visit Tucson. We can have scenery. We can have everything that really talks to what you can do when you come to Tucson. It won't be used for advertisement. It's just going to be for just displaying the beauty of Tucson and welcoming people. It could be something like sports, like if the U of A is having an event or a championship, that kind of thing. Again, not paid advertising, but it's just all about celebrating our community. One of the other improvements we recently did was consolidate all of our ground transportation into an area right out in front of the terminal. Makes it a little easier for people that were traveling with Uber and Lyft and taxis and all the shuttle buses. We had things pocketed around the airport, which was not efficient or very intuitive for our passengers. So that recently was completed, and we're working on improved wayfinding and new flight information display systems throughout the airport. So you'll see that coming along, in the upcoming months. The biggest project, though, that we're working on is right now estimated at $320 million. And it is the biggest project that the airport has ever done. It is called the Airfield Safety Enhancement Project. And you may have heard a little bit about this. This is where we demolish an existing general aviation runway, we move it, and we build a second parallel commercial service runway. Everyone can use it. Just right now, the GA runway, the general aviation runway, can only be used by general aviation. So that isn't very useful for air carriers, the military, or cargo operators. So this will provide our airport some safety enhancements to meet the new safety standards that the FAA has, and provides us with additional capacity, redundancy, and it really builds this airport out for the future. What you see on the screen right now in those colored boxes where it says DBB1, DBB2, DBB3, and CMAR, that stands for Design, Bid, Build. So that's a phase of the project. And each one of these phases has a different contracting and consulting group. And then it's all run under a construction manager at risk model. So it's all being coordinated, but it's a way to provide business to over 70 consultants, and it creates hundreds and hundreds of very good jobs. Right now, we are hopeful that with federal funding, we can get the project completed within 4 to 6 years. And I say hopeful, it really depends on the FAA's funding model. But right now the project is underway, and we're all in. I mentioned a little bit about Ryan Field a little bit ago, and again, it's important to us as well. And we just recently completed a master plan, which is really wonderful for this airport because it helps us to plan for the future. And with so much of the community moving out towards Ryan, we want to be prepared to absorb whatever business comes our way. And one thing that's really nice is one of our really big tenants from Tucson International is moving to Ryan. He's moving his flight school there. So there was a flight training facility that was vacant at Ryan for years and years. So that is being redeveloped, and Double Eagle Aviation is moving over there. So we will have a flight school at Ryan again. So we're really excited about that. Economic development, I think that's why we're all here. And a lot of people know that Tucson International Airport has a lot of land surrounding it. The Tucson Airport Authority has been proactively purchasing land probably for the last 40 years in preparation for either future runways or in efforts to curb noise mitigation. So we buy the land so no one builds a house there. But there's opportunities right now for us to coordinate with our economic development partners and look at ways to create commercial and industrial spaces on this land. So right now we're in the middle of a process with the FAA to redesignate some of our land holdings from aeronautical to non-aeronautical. Then that positions us to better use that as these development opportunities come up. So we're really, really fortunate. The timing is good. We have a lot of interest right now, and we're very excited. What's really nice about our location is just the proximity to I-10, I-19, the railroad, the Port of Tucson. I mean, we couldn't be in a better location to help spur economic development for our region. This is my last slide, and I'm going to point out, just for all of you, this is our plug for getting yourself your travel ID updates. I don't know if you're aware of this, but you need to have a new ID in order to fly. But the deadline was just changed actually yesterday to May 3rd of 2023. So all of you out there that haven't had an opportunity because of the pandemic or other reasons to go get your new driver's license with the little star that's up in the corner here, that's real important. If you don't have that, you may not be able to fly. So just something to be thinking about the next time you get your driver's license. Make sure you're getting the new driver's license with that documentation on it. Dave, I hope I ran through at a pace that you'd asked me to, and I am happy to answer any questions.
You were great, thank you. And we do have questions. Danette, by the way, my wife's suggestion, I dug out my birth certificate yesterday so I can get my ID updated so I can fly when that deadline is enacted. Here's a question that someone asked, and I presume this is about the airlines themselves and aircraft. Will the airlines keep the frequent air exchange even after the pandemic passes? And this questioner would be appreciative of that.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, the airlines have always had HEPA filters on board. And what I like to say now is that the aircraft are cleaner now than when they came off the factory floor. I really feel that they have really stepped up their cleaning, their sanitization, and the exchange of air within the aircraft itself.
Send your questions to Kristen at the chat. Here's a question, Danette. The president has proposed a remarkably large infrastructure bill, and this questioner is asking if that legislation would provide additional money for runway improvement and facilities improvements.
I haven't read the details of the bill that the president talked about in the State of the Union address last night. However, in the CARES Act and in the Coronavirus Relief Act and the American Recovery Act, airports and airlines had carve-outs. So in the first two federal packages, the combined federal funds for Tucson International and Ryan Airfield total $28.5 million. We're not sure what the third Recovery Act will allocate for both of our airports. I'm going to guess probably somewhere between $15 and $18 million. When we accept that federal funds, it's in the form of a grant. And what we do is agree that we will not reduce our staff below 90% of its present capacity, and that we will continue supporting airlines in the airport in the same manner we did pre-pandemic. And we were doing that anyway, and we will always continue to do that because our philosophy at the Tucson Airport Authority is safety, security, and customer service. And part of being a safe airport is continuing to build out on our infrastructure and doing things to the latest standards.
Great. Several people have asked, and you addressed issues of connectivity to different communities. You talked about San Diego. One of our questioners asks if there's any possibility of direct flights to Boston or Providence, Rhode Island.
Oh, I would so love to have that. You know, we talked to Southwest Airlines about that last year, and we were really in the process of analyzing where people go. And there's a way to do the demographics of who started in Tucson and where they went and where they ended up to see what support we can garner for a route. It's certainly on our list. We understand that there's a big connectivity there because of the Raytheon company. And we understand that. We're still interested in New York, Canada, Mexico, really increasing our service to the Bay Area. Really, there's no destination that's off limits for us. So we're really opening our eyes to all of them. In fact, in about a month, we have a meeting with our airline partners. It's called Routes, by the way. And we go and have what we call speed dating. And we meet with all of the airlines and sell our community and sell routes. So that's what we do. And sometimes it works for us and sometimes it doesn't, but we never stop the ask.
Another question on routes, Danette, is about the Pacific Northwest. And I know that in our business, as we encounter winter visitors and snowbirds, and those are two different groups, by the way, a lot of people come from Seattle, Portland. How about service to that Pacific Northwest corridor?
Absolutely. You know, there isn't any route that's off limits to us. And where we might have one frequency right now, we might get 2 or 3 frequencies. But there's something I want to point out. When we do get a route, people need to fly it. If they don't book the seat and there isn't a body sitting in the seat, the airline is looking at that and realizing that I can get a higher yield if I take that piece of metal in another market. So when our community says, I want this flight, we want to get that flight for you. As a community, we need to come together then and use that flight. Otherwise, we will lose that flight. So that's kind of the trade-off is we can get it, but we need to figure out how to keep it.
Stephanie Bowe from Bayer asks about a direct flight to St. Louis, which is where Bayer's U.S. headquarters is. Again, your message would be, sure, but you got to fly it, right?
Yeah. I know you probably have to go to Kansas City and then down or Dallas and up. Yeah, so sorry that sometimes you have to take the one stop to get where you're going.
Danette, several people are asking us about the competitive environment and the relationship with Sky Harbor and Phoenix. And, you know, we've heard for years here that people drive to Phoenix and fly. And of course, that's a detriment to the airport that you manage and that we all are supportive of. Talk about that for a minute and how you view the relationship, the dynamics, whether they're direct competition. What does it look like to you?
Well, I don't think Phoenix thinks they're in competition with us because we're just tiny to them. But they are very important to us because we don't want to lose a single passenger to a flight out of Phoenix. And as I mentioned, the airlines look at the demographics. They know where we live. They know where we're coming from. And they will say, well, gee, if these people drive for an hour and a half up to this other airport, let them. We're not going to add a flight to Tucson. They're already coming to Phoenix. It keeps our costs low to have it out of Phoenix. We're trying to say people, if they can stay in Tucson, even if it's that one-stop market for a while, we have to demonstrate that we have the need to be able to get the nonstop. It's a really difficult, it's a difficult process because the airlines are so particular and so finicky. And if we can just get, 5% of the people that are traveling to Phoenix not to, that could be another nonstop flight for Tucson. We call this leakage, people that are going up to Phoenix. And now I will say this, I understand when there's an airline that you're operating out of that doesn't fly out of Tucson, that makes sense. But if it does fly out of Tucson, please give us a shot first. Unless you enjoy driving an hour and a half and parking and having, that big airport experience where it's very chaotic, please look at Tucson too. It might surprise you how easy it is to fly from Tucson.
It is always easy and convenient. I wonder during the pandemic, and this is a question from me, how have the related businesses fared? The parking facilities, the hotels that are adjacent, what are you getting for feedback from them?
Well, I think they're trying to survive along with the rest of us. Part of being an economic engine is understanding the multiplier effect of the jobs that are created because the airport exists. Hotels, tourism, Even probably Uber and Lyft to some extent, different markets of the tourism and transportation sector. We recognize that we have an obligation to try to do the best we can to restore the air service, bring the people back, work collaboratively with our partners like Visit Tucson and other entities about bringing business to Tucson. That will help these local companies. Now, for the companies that are at the airport, we have been doing a lot of different things by waivers. Some of the things that the federal funding has allowed us to do is to defer or waive certain fees. And that's what we're doing now. I mean, even with the airlines, what people may not know is during the pandemic and into next year, we've given the airlines almost 35% break in everything just to keep them in our community. That's what we're doing.
Danette, we've got a lot of business people on the call. Some of them are larger employers, and we all fly personally as well. Have you ever looked at the ratios of personal and leisure travel as compared to business travel? And my understanding is that business travel has been dramatically reduced during this moment. Some of it may be long-term before it comes back. What do you see on that front?
We see that the percentages have flipped. What used to be the business travel market as a percentage is now the leisure travel market percentage. And that is where the predictions are taking us into the future. And so we still think that our tourism market will be strong and will take over where the business travel once was. And the business travel will drop down to what was our tourist travel. What we're seeing is that we think we're going to recover. It's just that the makeup of that recovery will be a little bit different.
So it would help then if we develop our economy and attract more business, more perhaps major employers to the community, and you work with folks presumably through Sun Corridor and other big employers. Is that right?
Absolutely, yes. Sun Corridor is a really important partnership with our organization, and we're providing them information on airport recovery all of the time as they're out in the industry recruiting businesses to our region. And regardless of whether these businesses come and decide to invest in beyond Tucson Airport Authority land, or if it's the county or Oro Valley land or anybody else, as long as they're in our region, that's good for the region. We're happy about that.
As you manage the airport, how much attention are you paying to those projections of growth within the market? And I would presume the tourism market would be relatively stable with slight increments. Does business development and the possibility of landing major employers, as an example, does that weigh in on the decisions that you all make?
Absolutely. We're always forecasting for the future. That's what master planning is about, looking to the future and also pivoting because things are changing. We're working with some businesses right now that are interested in coming to Tucson. Whether or not they select our city and our airport to operate from, we don't know, but those are the things that we're planning for. And that's the growth. I mean, that's the nice thing about what we're doing at the airport. We have room to grow our terminal. We have room to grow our airfield. We have room to grow our aeronautical and non-aeronautical development. I mean, we're really positioned for some great growth. And we're also positioned to pivot quickly, very nimble organization.
Someone's asking again about specific service and writing that they've flown Tucson to Los Angeles on Southwest. They book nonstops, but then they become connected flights where they even flying to Denver. So a 1 hour trip turns into a 7 hour trip. Yeah. I probably shouldn't have asked that question. But is there anything you can do? I mean, can you influence the airlines to do what they say with regard to those nonstops?
Yeah, I'm so sorry that happened. I would just say at this point, give the airlines a little bit of a break, if you would. They're trying to survive. I mean, God, they are losing billions of dollars. They haven't seen a profit in the last year and a half. and they're surviving on federal stimulus funds right now, and through airports providing, you know, lower rent just to keep them. So if they have to then look at their ridership, and if there isn't enough ridership from a destination, they might choose to go pick up a few more people or connect to another city. I know it's not convenient, but sometimes that's what they do.
Sure. If you have more questions, chat your questions to Kristen, please. Danette, I think this one's obvious, but I'm going to ask it anyway. What can we all do to be helpful to you and to the airport?
Well, my first ask is that when you choose to fly, you fly out of Tucson. And you know, sometimes the airfares might be different. Maybe they're a little higher, maybe they're a little lower. You know, I don't know, depending on when you travel and what might be available at that time. But look and see what's available out of Tucson. Because when someone buys a ticket out of Phoenix, you're actually harming Tucson. So that's something I really want to ask your help on. So please fly Tucson if and when you can. And let us know how we can help you too. If we know something about something that's going on in the community that we can use to position the airport in our region better with the airlines, we'll take that information and use that.
Appreciate that. I know that, you know, I look at the northwest side here and you've got relative proximity to Sky Harbor. I think you all may have spoken in Saddlebrook. Did you speak at a Saddlebrook Rotary Club maybe or something like that?
We will be very shortly.
And I look at that, I look at those growing communities to the north where they have disposable income, a lot of it is leisure travel, and they have choices. What's your story to somebody in Saddlebrook, Danette?
Yeah, that one's a tough one, Dave, because they do have choices and they are kind of on the fringes, but we still consider them in our catchment area, and we still would like them to fly out of Tucson. If they're calling Tucson their home, and hopefully they are, and they're invested in our region, and we can get an emotional attachment, hopefully they'll select Tucson. So that one's going to be a tough one. We have our work cut out for us. One of the things that we're going to be doing in the near future is adding more billboards up the I-10 corridor. So you'll see a little more nonstop for Tucson messaging. We've got presentations like this scheduled all over the community, and certainly focusing on the Northwest, Marana, Saddlebrook, Oro Valley. This is the area that we lose people to Phoenix. So again, I can't impress on you enough to just ask for you to give Tucson a chance, because it's hard to get the flights back once we lose them.
It's an easier sell for you, I presume, in a community like Sierra Vista, which is more distant, of course, from Phoenix. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Sure. The question asked, a military lounge was opened near baggage claim just before COVID, then promptly closed because of the pandemic. When will it reopen?
We've got a plan to open it probably within the next couple of weeks, and working very closely with the military. We'll have to still have some limitations, and you know, is how many people can fit in there. It's a wonderful lounge, but it isn't very large, so you can only fit so many people. But very soon it'll open.
You had mentioned that you have room to grow your terminals, and the questioner is, what direction would you go? Would you go northeast from the current terminal toward long-term parking, or what would be the configuration?
So if you're flying out of the terminal where Southwest Airlines is, which is our A gates, we have the capacity to add 4 more gates on that ramp. So that's a forecast and a future plan if we hit certain targets. Over on the concourse where American Airlines is, which is our B gates, we're in the process right now working with the airlines to relocate a fuel farm. And that's under construction right now. Once the fuel farm is relocated, and then the old fuel farm is environmentally cleaned up, we'll have the ability to add more gates on that site as well.
You know, I was down at the Pima College Aviation Technology building a few years ago now, and heard about the tremendous demand for those trained individuals to find good jobs within the airport. Is that still there as a pandemic impacts all of us?
Oh yeah, in fact, I was out on the airfield the other day giving a tour, and they're expanding Pima Community College. They're doubling the size so that they can accommodate more students. And I also want to talk a little bit about Pima Community College and our partnership with them. We have a scholarship program that we created about 2 years ago called the Wheels Up Scholarship, and we provide scholarship opportunities to 3 students every year. And it's our way of giving back to the community. The students. We all remember when we were starving students.
Yes, we do. Danette, in your presentation, you talked about some of the ongoing practices and changes that the flying customer is going to experience. Do you see other things that are going to evolve and change because of the pandemic with regard to air travel?
Well, as far as other countries opening up their travel, I think the United States is in a better position than some of the other countries, especially Europe and Asia. There's a lot going on right there. So you have to really look at the State Department's website to see what the travel restrictions may or may not be. So once more of the world has the opportunity to become vaccinated and travel starts to get back to normal, I would say that's probably going to be the first big step for global airline recovery.
Yeah, interesting. And I was thinking about my wife who went into the pandemic as a germaphobe, and it's been heightened since then, and we're about to fly. And she said, I will wear a mask the rest of my life traveling on an airplane. And, I think and she's not a crazy person, even though she's married to me, but, that's the way she thinks. And, I think other people, will they change their behaviors that way? What will the experience be like? And we're about to find out. So,
well, I think the science is telling us that the mask that I'm wearing protects you, and the mask that you're wearing protects me. So some people may feel compelled to continue to wear masks, and that's fine. The airlines and the federal government still require that on board aircraft and in the airports. While you see me sitting here without a mask, I mean, our whole staff has been vaccinated and we cannot walk around our offices without a mask. But the second I walk into the terminal part, I'm in a mask. So we have to be cognizant of that and really stay focused on what changes are being shared with us by our federal officials and our state and local officials.
Sure. Somebody's asking, and I don't know about this, why is the 747 parked south of the terminals?
That is Rolls-Royce, and they have a test bed here at Tucson International Airport. We're happy to have them here. They, at one point, they were testing the Dreamliner engine, and what they do is they've got these amazing engineers. Inside that aircraft is just a computer lab. They do things to the engine, they go fly, they come back, do more things to the engine, go fly. It's all about testing and for safety, and that's their project. So they are bedded here.
That's great, man. I'm impressed that you could answer that question. That's pretty good. Any other questions? People chat them in, and before we part, I'll await other questions. But next Thursday morning at 9 a.m. is our Bioscience Spotlight event, and we hope you'll join us again virtually. We toured the U of A Center for Innovation, Oro Valley, and we interviewed the 2 startup tenants who are there, and it's amazing stuff. We're going to have a remarkable story for you about cancer diagnosis at Roche, and Roche scientists have discovered the virtue of using a kitchen blender to grind up cancerous tumors and better identify what's happening within those tumors. And if you get past the whole blender piece of it, the science is incredible and the innovation is just truly remarkable. Lastly, at that event, we're going to announce the recipient of our $10,000 chamber-funded grant to another bioscience startup that's going to get 1 year of occupancy at the U of A Center for Innovation Oro Valley. They're also going to get some pro bono marketing and legal help. And we sure hope that, you know, they're going to grow the next great bioscience business in our community. And it's a really interesting subject, by the way, when you tune in. So that's next Thursday. It's going to start at 9 a.m. and we do hope that you'll join us. Kristen, do we have any other questions that we've missed or?
Nope, that was it.
Great. Well, I want to thank everybody for being here. I want to give special thanks to Danette and Jesse and Dave, all the people from the airport who are with us. Again, we'll do some writing about it in the newsletter and we'll make the PowerPoint available for you all to look at. And yeah, let's fly nonstop to and from Tucson whenever you can. And again, appreciate everybody's time and
Dave, thank you for the invitation to come before the group. It was nice seeing everybody.
Yes, and let's see each other live soon. That's the idea. All right, everybody, thank you and take great care.
Thank you. Bye.